upon Dan Needles to come forward, another wonderful speaker who's going to be providing the charge to council today.
Well, good morning. It is very flattering that you would look to a humble sheep farmer from the back settlement to come here this morning and give a brief message of inspiration and hope as you begin your work together. His worship called me a couple of weeks ago and asked me if I would do this. He heard a talk I gave last year about civility, and he wondered if I could pack the whole thing into 5 minutes. So I have been struggling with your request, Brian, for the last 2 weeks, pausing only for sleep and prayer. Before I left this morning, my son, the philosophy student, gave me a warning. He said, "Dad, don't go in there and talk to those people about civility. You'll just sound like an old guy. People aren't civil anymore. They're all pushing past each other to get what they want. The politicians are just the same as everybody else." I said, "Well, if that's true, then there's a problem. And before much longer, it won't be my problem, it'll be your problem." And I said, "What do you plan to do about this?" And he shrugged and said, "Well, not much." I should explain my son. He did several years of philosophy. He studied the writings of people like Fred Nietzsche, who said, "God is dead, life is meaningless, all you can do is just open yourself to the sublime indifference of the universe." Well, that's pretty depressing, isn't it? If you keep thinking like that, you might as well get a flock of sheep, because that's exactly how sheep think. My veterinarian, Jason, down in Creamer, says that sheep come out of the womb pretty much determined to die. Some days it seems that that's all they want to do. So it's my job as a shepherd to give them the will to live. A shepherd is supposed to practice stewardship. That's what you see. That's why you see sheep in all the stained glass windows in our churches. Sheep are just like us. They're lost, helpless, and in need of constant supervision. I've had the sheep 30 years now. People wonder why. My wife wonders why. The answer is simple. I like them. I've never been able to give any other reason until just last week when my other son, the soldier, called me from up in Alaska, where he's been on military exercises with his regiment in war games with the Americans. He was acting as sergeant in charge of a company of soldiers, and he got decorated for quick thinking and action. He was mentioned in dispatches, which is, I'm just full of this, a pretty big deal, and we're very proud of him. I said, that's just terrific. How did you do it? And he said, Dad, I think growing up with sheep really helped me prepare for this work. I mean, looking after my guys is a lot like working with sheep. You gotta know where they are all the time. You gotta know what they're doing. You have to have a sense of what they're going to do next. Oh, it made my heart grow big. My little boy was out there practicing stewardship. He's looking after the life around him like a shepherd. That's what the people of Collingwood are asking you to do. They want you to take responsibility for the life around you in this town. I've been an observer of Collingwood's ups and downs for more than 40 years now. I believe we have come to a very important moment. There's been a sea change here, and there's, I think, a better opportunity to practice stewardship than I have seen in a long time. There's tremendous experience in the room. There is youth. There is enthusiasm. And you have an enormous amount of goodwill from the people. They want you to succeed. They want you to work together. They want you to pick one or two important things that really need to be done and go to work on them. They don't want you to dwindle into a debating society. You know the problems better than anyone. I don't need to list them. You also have a better idea what to do about them than anyone. There is the wisdom in this room to come to agreement and work to make a difference. Civility is the ability to push hard for what you think is best, but to understand you can't always get what you want. That should not discourage you, because Mick Jagger was right. If you try, you may get what you need. I followed a politician, George McKay, colleague of Bill's. I followed him around for 5 years as a speechwriter, baggage handler, martini shaker. 5 years was just long enough to realize I didn't have the stamina or the patience to do this myself. George was the most civil person I ever met in public life. He was also one of the most effective. He never lost his patience. He never lost sight of the objective. He tried hard to train me to keep my emotions in check and work at listening to people. He always said that a committee that couldn't find a common purpose was a debating society and a waste of everyone's time. He was guided by a particular piece of scripture that summed up his feeling about public service. And I was not surprised to see it printed on the leaflet they handed out at his funeral. It said, "Like good stewards of the manifold grace of God, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received." And that's what I would charge you to do over the next 4 years. Practice civility. Practice stewardship. Push hard for what you believe is in the public good. But above all, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received. Thank you, Your Worship. I wish you all the very best in the coming term.
So now we move into the formalities of the ceremony. At this point, I will be administering the declarations of office, including their commitment to the code of conduct. As well, each member will be provided a 2-minute opportunity to provide a statement to the community. In the absence of hearing over and over again the code of conduct, acceptance and acknowledgement, I'm going to read it out once here, and then once they do their declaration of office, they will also be declaring and affirming their acceptance of the code of conduct. So this is the code of conduct that council will be abiding by and adhering to through their term of office. This council, having been elected to the office in the municipality of the corporation of the town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that you have read, acknowledge, and accept that the purpose of the code of conduct is to reinforce the town of Collingwood's accountability and transparency policy and other relevant legislation within which all members of council, local boards, and advisory committees must operate, and its key principles that members are to uphold. These include to serve in a conscientious way and diligent manner, to perform functions with integrity without using the influence of your office, to avoid all conflicts of interest, to perform duties of office and to arrange your private affairs in a manner that promotes public confidence and will bear close legal and public scrutiny. Be responsible for making honest statements and shall not make any statement when knowing that statement is false or when the intent is to mislead other members or the public, and to serve and provide public interest by upholding the laws and policies established by the federal parliament, the Ontario legislature, and the laws and policies adopted by the town. So at this point in the ceremony, we will call upon Yvonne Hamlin to come forward for the first declaration of oath. Yvonne, if you could bring your statement with you as well. Also, before we begin, as a commissioner of oath for the municipality, It is not a requirement to swear upon a Bible or any formal document. As long as you provide a solemn promise, declaration, or affirmation, then that information is sworn into the office that they're declared. So that's how we will be conducting ourselves today. So first, I'll have Yvonne come forward. If I can have you.
I, Yvonne Hamlin, having been elected to the office of Councillor in the Municipality of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that, 1, I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. 2, I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. 3, I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. 4, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And also, do you, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make and solemnly promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath?
I do.
Perfect. Look at your signature.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Well, greetings, family, friends, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, fellow councillors. What an honor to be standing here today. Truly, an honor to have received the support of so many electors who voted on Election Day. An honor to be able to offer my time and energy for public service on behalf of our great town. And an honor to be able to serve with such a dedicated, energetic, and talented group that is now your council. I am, of course, grateful for my husband Harold and daughter Natalie in particular, and for all of those who helped me in so many ways throughout the campaign. I discovered so much running for office the first time. Lessons that I learned from everyone I met along the way, from my printer to my neighbors to new friends to old. It definitely takes a village, to paraphrase an old saying, to win an election, and I am grateful for the village that came to my assistance. Your new council has 4 years to be of service to you. My priorities will include urban design, waterfront accessibility and renewal, and important environmental concerns, including our tree canopy. I'm so looking forward to working in a collaborative fashion with these fine people. We have a lot of big decisions to make on your behalf in the days and months and years ahead of us. I know we can count on your input. I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Now I'll call upon Kathy Jeffrey. Kathy, I'll have you begin reading the Declaration of Office.
Thank you. I, Kathy Jeffrey, having been elected to the office of Councillor in the Municipality of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that, 1, I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. 2, I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. 3, I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. 4, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And do you, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make the solemn promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do.
I do. Thank you, Clerk Almas, distinguished head table and honored guests. It is a privilege for me to be here and to thank all of you for attending our very special inauguration this morning. It is a perfect opportunity for me to publicly express a sincere appreciations. And firstly, the residents who voted. It took time to become familiar with so many candidates, and your time commitment and your investment, well, I found it impressive. Most particularly, my appreciation goes out to my campaign team, and many friends that helped in so many ways. My mother, Joan, my sister-in-law, Rebecca, my daughter-in-law, Margaret, and my granddaughter, Nora, are here to cheer me on this morning. Well, Nora's here because her mother's a food source still. But as Reed did say, that each and every one of us knows that our family's support doesn't happen just at election time. Our family members endure ups and downs, all full terms, and I know I couldn't do it without mine, so thank you guys. Also, I'm appreciative of the 2014-18 Council, who had the intestinal fortitude to make some very critical decisions. I believe that they have laid the foundation for our new council and councils into the future to chart a course of continued success and opportunities. All people matter. That is my vision, and it has been so for all terms of council I have served, from our homeless and disenfranchised to our most comfortable and most generous, from our youngest to our most seasoned, from our residents with disabilities to our residents without. Those and many more are the lenses I bring to every decision. The decisions I support will ensure that our town is fiscally responsible, inclusive, prospering, culturally enhanced, safe, and resilient. So in closing, I congratulate my 2018-22 council colleagues, and I very much look forward to working with them toward these goals. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call upon Steve Berman. If anybody knows perseverance, it's Steve Berman. I think he's attended almost every single council meeting, many committee meetings for the last 8 years. So Steve, if you'd like to step forward and read your declaration of office.
Steve Berman, having been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that 1. I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. 2. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in any biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. 3. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. 4. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if I made it under oath.
Steve, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, do you make this solemn promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct, and will you accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do. I do.
it's nice to see so many people come out to celebrate the first day of Hanukkah. One of my favorite quotes says that nothing is more important to a democracy than a well-informed electorate. And when I look at the other 8 people that you elected and that I have the privilege of working with for the next 4 years, I'm so proud of this town and how informed you really were. Having said that, I believe that we can continue to improve over the next 4 years. As a member of this new council, I will continue to communicate all that I can about the important issues that are happening in our town. You may not always agree with the way that I vote, but my decisions will be honest and informed, and I'll be available to discuss them with you anytime that you want. In order to stay informed about our town, I ask that you continue to make that effort as well. I've been given a lot of credit for things that I've informed you about over the years, but truth be told, much of that information was already available to the public. I just happened to be the one that asked the question. You can all do that as well over the next 4 years, and if you aren't sure how to do it, I'll always be there to help. I do want to thank my family, if I see them over there. My in-laws, Hans and Sue. 6 years ago, I stood up for something that I believed in, but I did it without considering that I was doing it in your hometown. Yet you stood by me, you defended me, you supported me, and you loved me every step of the way, so thank you. Jamie, you've been my partner in this political journey ever since you handed me a bunch of papers 6 years ago and said, I think you might want to read these. You're every bit as passionate and committed to the future of our town as I am. And my daughter, Maddie, you're my inspiration, and you know that I do this all for you. I promise to do my best to make you all proud over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call upon Deb Doherty. I'll have you start by reading the Declaration of Office.
I, Deb Doherty, having been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the corporation of the town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And do you, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make the solemn promise that you have read at the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct, and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do.
I do. Thank you. And the men who hold high places must be the ones to start, to mold a new reality closer to the heart. Words from the 1977 iconic song, Closer to the Heart, by the band Rush, capture, for me, the sentiment of the residents of Collingwood during this election. A desire for change, a desire to create a community that is closer to our collective heart's desire. I suppose one major difference from this representation of governance in 1977 is that today, residents of Collingwood have chosen a council that is gender balanced for the first time. A great achievement and a sign of the times for a forward-thinking community. Collingwood is my treasured home. For me, it is the best place to live in this world. And today, I still want nothing more than to give back, to protect and enhance our strengths, a warm, friendly, and inclusive community, an envied lifestyle, clean air and water, a celebrated downtown, a waterfront with vast but unrealized potential. There were 5 priorities upon which I ran, and these are the priorities: health and active transportation and asset management. Finally, I am committed to being part of a council that restores a culture of trust, a culture of can-do throughout the municipality, and enthusiastic citizen engagement. I thank you most sincerely for your support and for the confidence you have placed in me. I look forward to the next 4 years of hard work for and with you good people.
At this point, I'd like to call upon Bob Madigan.
Sure. I, Bob Madigan, have been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of Collingwood and the corporation town of Collingwood. I probably threw that up already. God bless. Duly solemnly promise and declare that 1, I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. 2, I have not received and will not receive any payments or rewards or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. 3, I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. 4, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign of the time being, and I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing and knowing, I'll add that word, to be true. That the same force and effect as made under oath. Attention.
And do you, having been elected to the council of the corporation of the town of Collingwood, make the solemn promise that you have read the town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and that you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Perfect.
My daughter gave me a pen. I really hope it works. Oh, there I am. Two minutes, yeah, right, like I'm gonna take 2 minutes. Bobby loves to hear his voice. So, yeah, 4 years ago, you know what? I always speak off the cuff. I never really have a speech, and I've probably written a speech 4 times last night, threw them all out, and I'm just having the book open to make you look like I think I know what I'm doing. And then today, hearing everybody else's speech, I probably changed what I was going to say 100 times. Okay, stop. So I want to point out that 4 years ago I was elected, and now I'm elected again, and the audience has sure changed. And I really, really want you to acknowledge that we have mayors of the past here And I'm very, very proud that they're showing the leadership to come out and support. We have our 2 new mayors from our communities, so thank you very much, our wonderful neighbors and partners in Southern Georgian Bay, Doug and Nina. You guys rock. And we have the next head of the PC party, our MP, Terry Dowell. No pressure, Terry, don't let us down. Bring us a hospital. No pressure. So this morning I woke up and I thought, oh my gosh, today is the day. I knew at midnight I ceased being a councillor, so I actually had between 12:01 and 10:55 to do whatever I wanted as a citizen again. Under the guidance of Kristen, I decided not to do anything. Thank you very, very much. And I came in today very, very excited, but a little nervous at the same time. We have a lot to look forward to over the next 4 years with our council, and I know that you as the town should demand the best. My pledge to you has been what it'll always be. I'm going to do my darndest to be available, willing to learn, and consistently be open-minded. When I first ran, they said, Bobby, what's your platform? I said, I'm going to listen. They said, you're never going to get elected. Nobody listens. And I never changed. I work for you guys. You don't work for me. I represent your thoughts, not mine. This is not my Collingwood. It's our Collingwood. So to the special people that I have in the front row today who hesitantly sat there, thank you very much. To my family, my son is here. The decisions that we make today, I see Keith's family, kids here, I see Tina's family, my son, thank God you shaved, I love you. The decisions that we make today are going to affect them. It's really not going to affect us. It's really not going to affect what I eat for dinner tomorrow, what time I go to bed tonight. The key decisions for infrastructure and money spent is all for them. So we have to remember that. It's the future that we have to look forward to, and they're going to be the ones that hopefully won't have to clean up our mess, because we won't give one. But now you've elected me, I can ask a favor of you. Please keep us in check. Please. Keep us accountable and never give up until your voices are heard. We work for you. We represent you. None of us will ever forget that. I know that. And everybody else did a quote, so I'm going to do a quote. The past 4 years, and many other times, this town has been burdened with some of the decisions of the past, and they feel that they can't trust us. And I want you to know that you can. That being said, I'm going to quote a very famous Beatle, the most famous, Ringo Starr. His song is It Ain't Easy, and I don't know, have a clue. I looked through my memories in Facebook today, because that's how I live my life, and I have no idea why 9 years ago I shared this. And the quote was, I don't ask for much, I only want your trust. And you know it don't come easy. And this love of mine keeps growing all the time. And you know that just ain't easy. This is my town. I owe everything to it. It's time that we pay it back. I love you guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Give yourselves a round of applause, please.
Wouldn't expect anything different coming from an album sales fellow as well as an entrepreneur and businessman. And now I'd like to call upon Tina Comey to come forward, please.
I, Tina Comey, having been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the corporation of the town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And do you, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make the solemn promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
See, they're truly getting married to their new jobs.
Good morning. It is such an honor to stand before you today. I would like to thank my parents, Lorene and Joe, for your support and for introducing me to your fantastic friends at the galleries. My husband, Johan. That was a lot of signs, babe. My daughter, Sunny, who was my videographer, my event scheduler, social media coordinator, wardrobe consultant, and critic. That's a lot for an 11-year-old. And on top of that, you went on to be awarded Collingwood's Performance Paddle Team's Female Paddler of the Year. I'm so proud of you. My son, Julian, who turns 9 this week. Thank you for your patience and for accepting cereal for dinner many a night without complaint. I owe you a trip to the candy factory. A very special thank you to Mr. Ted Rowe for your unwavering support. Thank you to Fareed and Sarah for organizing such comprehensive training for the new council. It was during a session with department heads and staff that we were asked to name attributes that would make for a successful council and councillors. It was our fire chief, Mr. Ross Parr, that offered up the word courage. It's a powerful word. It takes courage to run for election, and I would like to thank all the candidates who participated in the electoral process for bringing forth ideas and issues for the betterment of our town. It certainly takes courage to be a first responder, a caring teacher, a dedicated physician. It takes courage to say, I have nowhere to sleep tonight. It takes courage to roll up your sleeves and volunteer when there's something that simply needs to be done. It takes courage to start a small business. It takes courage to be deputized and stand before council to present an issue you feel needs to be heard. It takes courage to say, perhaps we can do better, or maybe there's another way. We are a town filled with creative, passionate, hard-working people. It is my commitment to listen to you and, with your support, to have the courage to act. Thank you all so very much.
And now I'd like to call upon Marion McLeod. So Marion, I'll have you start by reading the Declaration of Office.
I, Marion McLeod, having been elected to the office of councillor in the municipality of the corporation of the town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if it were made under oath.
And do you, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make this solemn promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do.
I do. So they said we were supposed to talk for 2 minutes, but in light of where we are here in the Legion, and in honor of the recently late Reverend Ian Stewart, I thought more like 40 minutes would be appropriate. I really only need about 40 seconds. First point, if ever you find yourself confused about how to pronounce my name, think about Robin Hood and stay away from Gilligan's Island. Second point, thank you to my amazing husband, Charlie Renner, for your unfailing support and sage advice. Also, thank you to my tiny and terrific team who believed right from the beginning that I might be of some use to you all. They went alone and with me on the alternately frying and frigid days to convince other people that they were right. I would particularly like to thank my sister, Darlene Elliotson, for your relentless positivity and your enormous faith. And to the voters of Collingwood, and to those who helped convince me to do this, thank you for agreeing that I might be helpful. It is a tremendous honor to serve, and I will do my level best to deserve it.
Record that, Charlie. She said your sage advice. At this point, I'd like to call upon Keith Hall. So I'll have you read the declaration of office.
I, Keith Hall, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor in the municipality of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that 1, I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. 2, I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. 3, I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And 4, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect and if made under oath.
And do you, having been elected to the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make this solemn promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do.
I do. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for everyone taking the time this morning to be a part of this special celebration. I first would like to start with a few thank yous and then close with a remark. To my 2 boys, Aiden and Andrew, thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for your love and your support. And I look forward to moving forward together with you and seeing where the next 4 years takes us. To my parents, Blake and Barbara Hull, I thank you for being here with me this morning. I thank you as well for your love and support. I'd like to also thank Rob Holroyd, who is sitting with my family, for being here this morning. Rob was one of the first, if not maybe the first person that I told was going to be running for elected office. I thank you for your support, your encouragement, and for being a friend for all of these years. There are many others here in the audience this morning who I'd like to acknowledge and thank. 2 in particular, our past mayors, Geddes and Carrier. I appreciate the support that both of you have given me and your encouragement to run for public office. Thank you. I was standing before the mirror this morning getting ready, and I just want to mention a couple of things. One is that I'm wearing, by coincidence, the same suit I wore 8 years ago. And I mention that with pride because my mother is always on me about trying to lose weight. And the fact that I can stand here in the same suit 8 years later gave me some pride. Unfortunately, the same can't be true. 8 years ago, I was able to reach down for a comb. I didn't have that. I didn't have that same challenge this morning. But, anyways, I first would just like to acknowledge the 8 people to my left. To the 4 new members of council, it's going to be an honor to serve with you over the next 4 years, and I look forward to being a part of the council moving forward. To the 4 who are returning, I'd just like to say a simple thank you. You have laid a foundation over the past 4 years, along with the other 5 at the table, in creating a real foundation for this community to move forward, and you have given us a platform to be able to move down the field, and I'm very thankful for the work that you have done in setting us up for success over the next 4 years. And to Susie and Mr. and Mrs. Saunderson, I'd be remiss without saying that I've been very proud over the last 4 years to watch and observe your son Brian and the work that he has done as our deputy mayor, both locally here within the town and at the county of Simcoe. In my opinion, Brian has done an excellent job, and he will be an excellent mayor moving this community forward. I look forward to being a part of his team for the next 4 years. Brian, thank you for this opportunity. To the other 7, along with Brian, I look forward to being a part of your team, working on behalf of the residents of the town of Collingwood for the next 4 years. I just would like to close with sort of a macro level statement, if I may. And that is that we live in a time of social media, a lack of civility, politics that have been degraded to such a lowest common denominator that few take pride in public office and the work that's done by politicians and the civil service right across the town, the province, the country, and the world for that matter. And many people refer to Canada, and you'll hear from time to time, people will say, you know, if you were born in Canada, you've already won the lottery. Well, the same is true if you have an opportunity to live, work, and play in Collingwood, and if you have an opportunity to serve on town council. In fact, we have won the lottery. And over the last 2 months, there's been a couple of things, these are very minor, but when you add them together, I think they speak volumes about how fortunate we are that have taken place. One, we had a very successful election where the 9 of us were successful, but there was a whole slate of people who put their names forward, and we were able to debate issues, discuss issues with a level of decorum that is exemplary and one that could be followed elsewhere. 2 is that on the night of the election, we're all aware that there was a bit of a hiccup. Minor hiccup. The silver lining is the fact that in other places around the world, a hiccup such as that would have sent an election into chaos. And there would have been accusations of misleading, all kinds of things as it relates to the election. I'm thankful that we live here in Collingwood and not the state of Florida and other parts of the world. It's also been mentioned that we have a gender-balanced council, and that is significant. It's also significant that the 5 who have been represented and have now been documented and reported in the papers as being part of a gender-based council and a leading council within the municipality, within the county and within the province, are here because they deserve to be here, because they are intelligent, successful women who will represent you well. Councillor Berman, who's been a long-time friend of mine, also commented the fact that he was pleased to have so many of you in attendance to celebrate Hanukkah. However, I just wanted to point out, and again, it's not a minor thing, And that is that we have Councillor Berman, who quite possibly is the first Jewish councillor, a member of Jewish faith, serving on our council, alongside with the senior member of our leadership team, Farida Men, who is of the Muslim faith. And that should be acknowledged and celebrated, because there are many parts of the world today where that is not a reality and could not be a reality. And lastly, I just point out that as our first act as an incoming council, alongside with those who have served over the last 4 years, on Sunday, November the 11th, we had an opportunity to walk side by side as part of the processional for the observance of Remembrance Day, and in particular this year on the observance of the 100th year of the armistice of the Great War. And again, there are many parts of the world where that's not a possibility. And it stands to demonstrate that we are very fortunate to live in a society where we can have the successful transition from one government to another, and that we can walk together in acknowledgement of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in the past. So with those things said, I think I'd like to just celebrate by closing and saying that those are very small milestones, but when you put them all together, it speaks volumes to not only the community that we live in, the country that we live in, and quite frankly, as I said a minute ago, for those who were born here, you won the lottery. For those who are fortunate to live, work, and play in Collingwood, you've won the lottery. And to the 9 of us, I think that moving forward, we've won the lottery. And I look forward to it. Thank you.
I'm also the lottery licensing officer for the corporation, so I think we've won the lottery too. At this point, I'd like to call upon Brian Saunderson.
I, Brian Saunderson, having been elected to the office of Mayor in the Municipality of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or the reigning sovereign for the time being. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And do you, Brian Saunderson, having been elected to the position of Mayor of the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood, make the solemn promise that you have read the Town of Collingwood Code of Conduct and you will accept and adhere to its principles, conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath? If so, please say, I do.
Absolutely, absolutely and unequivocally, I do.
I'd like to call upon Susie Saunderson and William Saunderson to step forward.
We can bring the mic down. We can bring the mic down.
As you can see, I'm just a little older than Brian. Chain it off.
This is so tall.
Yes. There's your gold medal, Brian. Well, this is a very special day for the Saunderson family and for Meredith and myself. We're here with you today. Brian, I said as I put that on that chain of office on you, that was your gold medal, because you were trying a long time to win a gold medal in certain rowing races at the Olympics, so you finally got your gold medal. It's well deserved. But just to say a few words, I think an event like this is such basic democracy. This represents the people at in the community of Collingwood, or just as all across Canada have meetings like this. But it's not the flashy meetings of provincial governments or federal governments. This is where the basic things happen in community life. And you're a good example of that. Look how many people are here today on a Monday morning to celebrate a real act of democracy. And that's, I think, what we've seen today. And I thought to myself as I sat and listened to all the people who were successfully elected, gosh, what good people they are. They spoke well, they delivered their thoughts, and they have great ideas for Collingwood, and they're going to be good stewards for you. And so I think you should be very proud of what you've done by electing people like this. And it takes a lot of dedication and perseverance to get into politics. But let me tell you, once you get into politics, it takes a hell of a lot more determination and perseverance than you ever thought it was going to take. Because it's a lot of work, and you've got wonderful people elected. So I'm going to sit back now and watch Collingwood move ahead and do all the things I know it can do. Congratulations.
At this point in the ceremony, I'd like to have Mayor Saunderson provide his inaugural address.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you, Fareed, staff, council-elect, and welcome everyone today. And thank you to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to come to the Legion. I can't think of a more fitting site for this type of inaugural event, as it honors the veterans of our country who have fought in the past and continue to fight so that we can have the privilege to voting and electing our councils and our leaders in our communities. I'm not really sure how I top what's gone before me. It's been a spectacular inaugural, and I'd like to thank Elder James Carpenter, the town crier, Ken Templeman, Donna for your invocation, Dan for your excellent charge to the, not to the jury. The jury's still out. Charge to council. And often a challenge, and Dave, thank you for your excellent comments in community. It's a very important thing, and I think it's really what brings us here today. I would like to thank and recognize specific members of our audience. I'd like to recognize our former mayors, Mayor Terry Geddes and Mayor Chris Carrier, who have set the bar very high for this council for us to move forward. I'd like to recognize mayors-elect, although I think one of you has been sworn in already, Mayor Nina Bafolci from the town of Passaic Beach, and Mayor-elect Doug Measures. We'll be there tonight to watch Doug get sworn in. And these are our members of our community and show, I think, the regional strength that we have working with our neighbors. I'd also like to recognize our acting warden, Terry Dowdle, who is our MP, or our Progressive Conservative nominee for the Simcoe Grave federal seat coming up. And Terry has done a wonderful job at the county for over 15 years, I think. Received his pen, he's still angling for the statue, but I'm not sure that's going to happen, Terry. We'll see how you do moving forward. And I'd also like to recognize, I think Jane Sinclair is here. She's Director of Health Services from the County of Simcoe. It's our upper level of government and a very important part of our system here. And as you know, we have a $40 million affordable housing complex going on at High Street and 1st and 2nd Streets, and that goes through the county. We also have a new 6-bay paramedic station in town, which is reducing response times dramatically throughout our community. So thank you, Jane, for coming. And I'd also like to recognize Nora Holder, She was here, and Nora is our CEO of our hospital, very significant regional asset and partner, and we are all working very hard to make sure that the redevelopment that this community deserves and this region deserves will go forward. So welcome, Nora. Collingwood is really an incredible community, and I think we stand on the backs of our former leaders and community members when we stand here today as the incoming council. We have a proud history behind us and an extremely promising future in front of us. We've been named the #1 entrepreneurial community in Canada and ranked in the top 10, I think, for the last 4 years. We've been named one of the top outdoor communities in Canada, and we've also been named one of the top retirement communities in Canada. So we have much to be proud of, much to celebrate, and much to work forward to. And so it really is my honor today to stand before you as your incoming mayor. And I can tell you that a gathering like this was sort of one of the brief dreams that you'd have as you walked on campaigning, knocking on doors, thinking, maybe this will happen. And it is quite something that it has happened. And they say voters are never wrong. But as I look down the council today, and the humanity, courage, and conviction that you heard from my 8 co-members of council, I think really stands out. The voters, you're never wrong, but you got it right. Thank you very much. When I was getting sworn in 4 years ago at the county council, my desk mate, Ralph Huff, was many years the deputy mayor of Oro-Medonte. I think he'd been in county for about 16 years. And he looked at me and he said, sure, celebrate today, you're being sworn in. But after that, you're likely going to be sworn at. So that's my caution to council. I'll start off with a few thank yous, and they are legion, because really I could not have done this, I would not be here today without the incredible strength of my team. Many of them are here today. I know if I start to name them, I'll either cry or forget somebody. So I'm not going to do that. But I do want to recognize them. And I received an email, well, I have 2 stories to impart. I received an email partway through the election from a member of the community just saying, your team demonstrates grit. And grit was an anagram for grace, resilience, intelligence, and tenacity. I'm sure that was it. And they were, and they are. And I think that type of team was really critical to getting me here. It's an incredible testament to their hard work. They knocked on 7,000 doors over the course of the election. We had many meets and greets in living rooms and backyards throughout our community. I had a phone list to contact, signs. We had about 200 signs out, not including the big signs. It was pedal to the metal the whole time. And it really drove me almost by feeling that if I didn't get out there and do the work that I was letting my team down, because if they could do it, I certainly could. So my sincere thanks to that team. And the other story I was going to tell, I had another call from a resident who didn't know me, and he said, someone knocked on my door, we got into a discussion, and they came back 2 days later with a document to show me that their point was right. He said, I don't know who you are, but you have my vote. And so I hope to live up to the promise that they presented to you on my behalf as we move forward, and to live up to their aspirations. I also want to thank my family, my mom and dad, Bill and Meredith, who are here today. My parents taught me the importance of public service and the power of conviction. So many years ago, when I was complaining about something that happened in town, the comment was, well, you got 2 choices. You can just suck it up, or you can do something. And so I've chosen to do something, because that's really kind of the way it is around the table in my house. And that is going to be the way it is around this table too. So look forward to it. And I have to thank my 3 sons who aren't here today. They're out of town at school. But this is really their community, and this is how I got involved in our community through their endeavors in sports and developing the canoe club. Comey's daughter is paddler of the year, shield and receiver, and so that's fun. And our motto down at the Canoe Club is it's all about character. And I think that starts at a young age and continues on through there. And in my mind, sport, or life always imitates sport. And things like teamwork, dedication, and conviction, that's where you learn them. And so watching my sons grow up in Collingwood, it was fun to learn that vicariously through them. But as they grew older, I had to learn other things. I had to learn to listen, or learn the power of listening. And I also had to develop an extremely strong poker face. Because when I was hearing what they were telling me, it was a little unnerving. And finally, I want to thank my lovely wife, Susie. She is my best critic, my best friend, and most importantly, my life has never really been the same since she said yes 30 years ago. I'm not sure she's as happy about the decision, but I know I am. We've heard great things from this table tonight, and I'm not really here this morning. I'm not really sure there's much I can add. But I did say many times during the course of the campaign that I believe the word community has two root words, and one is common and the other is unity. And I know Dale, you touched on this in your comments. But community is really what draws us here today. And if we focus on what really pulls us together as a community, what our aspirations are, as Keith said, we've won the lottery here. And if we celebrate that, then the issues moving forward, where we may have a difference of opinion, will not be so big. If we keep our eye on the true value of what we've brought, brings us to this community and what has drawn us here, then moving forward to make the decisions that are tough and may not be popular will be, I think, easier. And for you, the public, my pledge as your mayor is to make sure that I work tirelessly at Town Hall, and I am stepping away from my law practice, so I will be there daily. My door is always open. I'm there to hear your voice, and I'm there to work with council and with staff to make sure that our decisions are done in a process that you can understand, that is open and with integrity. And while integrity of process won't determine the right decision, it will determine that the decision is made was done with integrity and openness. And that's my pledge to you. And my expectation of my council is that we will come to the table prepared, ready to discuss the issues of the day, that we will be open and receptive to other ideas, and that we will always find the solutions that are in the best interest of our community in a sustainable, economic, and viable way. And the other day we had an orientation session that Tina Cohn referred to, and we discussed what we wanted our values and principles to be. And I think that's important because there is a culture that emanates from our council that will emanate to our staff and then into our community. And that culture has to be one of openness, honesty, and dedication and commitment. And I think from what I heard that day, you have a council that is committed to that and will carry that forward. And when one of the questions we asked is how in 4 years would you like this council to be perceived or described by the public? And the words that stuck out in my mind were honest, candid, creative, courageous, and transformative. And while we have much to be proud of in our past, there are things we need to address in our community to transform ourselves into a modern, progressive community that embraces our small town feel, our green spaces, and our sustainability, but pushes the job of our administration and our council processes forward so that everything is done in the best possible manner. This chain feels quite light today, I have to say. I'm sure there'll be times when it feels heavier, but my pleasure is to work with you for the next 4 years. And I want to thank you all for being here today. And you'll know where to find me at Town Hall. Thank you very much. You'll have to get used to this. I forget things all the time. So I don't know if you noticed, but on my father's lapel is his pin from when he was a cabinet minister with the Ontario PC government in the 1990s. And what I'd like to do now is hand out pins to our council members to recognize that they are your council members. These are pins with our town emblem on, and they're made out of brushed steel. Brushed steel recognizes our heritage with the shipyards, but it also recognizes the need for a steely resolve that will be required of them over the next 4 years. So what I'm going to do is call each member up, present them with their pin, and then I'm going to ask them to stay here. I'm going to call up first Councillor Hamlin. Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Berman. Councillor Doherty. Councillor Matthews. Councillor Comey. Councillor McLeod. Marion. Councillor Hall. Or Deputy Mayor Hall. I can't give that title up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your council. These are the champions of your community for the next 4 years. So please, round of applause. We've got lots of work to do.
Not quite. This is the only time in 4 years that I actually get to have some control of the meeting, so I gotta take what I get. So at this point, I'd like to invite Reverend Donna Wilson back up to provide our closing prayer.
And I would like to thank our town clerk, Sarah Almas, for leading us so well today. Thank you for Your Worship, Mayor Brian Saunderson, Deputy Mayor Keith Hall, and councillors. As this holy season draws near, and this season is celebrated in many different traditions in our community, as Keith and Steve have already both shared, we remember the word magnificently performed this past weekend in the local production of The Messiah by Choral Works. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. From a wonderful Old Testament passage, Isaiah 9:5. From this passage, let us pray. We ask you, Almighty God, to watch over those you have entrusted to lead our beautiful town of Collingwood. Be the counselor, our mighty God and everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, to all who preside in the office of the mayor, deputy mayor, and councillors, and with the dedicated staff members as they serve the people in our generous and bountiful community. May you grant us peace and enable us to be a giving people and community. In the name of Jesus, amen.
And if everyone could please rise for the singing of God Save the Queen, Miss Sarah Dale Hartshorn.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us
may be briefly seated. Before we conclude, I'd like to invite the community to help the mission of this new council. We will be filling vacancies over the next couple months for our various boards and advisory committees, and we welcome your interest and your applications to participate in these various opportunities. And following today's service, I will invite you to also speak with our new council, our staff members that are present, and any of our committee members that are here present, and provide your words of encouragement and support during this new beginning. And based on the words of Dave Merrill, a poet laureate, as we all stand as one, and Dane Needles, as he supported the environment and the atmosphere of civility and stewardship, and that we will serve one another with each of our own gifts. I would like to thank everybody that participated in today's ceremony, especially our Knights of Columbus, since we had a different setup here today, so we appreciate their participation. It was greatly appreciated, as well as Ken Templeman, as always, James Carpenter for our new traditional acknowledgement that we will be providing, Sheila Stewart, our piper, Sarah Dale Hartshorn, our Reverend Dan Needles, and all the guests that participated. Thank you very much, and a thank you especially to my amazing staff that helped put this amazing event together in support of our new council. So with this, I'd like to say thank you, and this meeting is now adjourned.